Welcome to our film, all about Magherlin.
Or is it Magheralin? Or is it Magherla?
It's all the same place.
It's just the English way of saying a really old Irish place name.
Magherlain. The church Magherlin was built by Saint Ronan over 1,000 years ago. In fact, an even older name for Magherlin was Lan Ronan Finn, which means Church of Saint Ronan the Fair-Haired. It was one of the first churches in all of Ireland.
There's a really old story called The Madness of Sweeney. It talks about the time when Saint Ronan built his church in the year 637.
We worked together with the Armagh Rhymers to act out the story using puppets and music.
In the story, there's a guy called Sweeney who was a local king, a druid pagan who did not believe in the Christian God or Jesus. He believed in other gods and in nature and the land. One day, Sweeney found out about Christianity and that Saint Ronan was making a church on his land. This got Sweeney mad, so he tried to chase Saint Ronan away, but Saint Ronan stayed. Later, Sweeney joined the King of Ulster to fight the King of Ireland. The fight took place between Magherlin and Moira and was said to be the biggest battle ever fought in Ireland. But when Sweeney arrived at the battlefield, he got really mad because Saint Ronan was there as well, blasting the soldiers.
So Sweeney threw a spear at Saint Ronan. It missed, but it killed one of his followers. Sweeney threw another spear at Saint Ronan. This time, the spear hit a bell that Saint Ronan was wearing around his neck. Finally, Saint Ronan had had enough, and he put a curse on Sweeney that turned him into a birdman, half man, half bird. Angry and sad, Sweeney then flew around Ireland from tree to tree, trying to find peace, until one day he came to St. Mullen's monastery in Carlow. He asked the St. Mullen, "How do I find peace?" And St. Mullen said, "You may find peace in heaven." And Sweeney became a Christian and died in peace at St. Mullen's monastery.
We were delighted to be invited along today. Some of our members from our litter picking group and our gardening group and the committee came along to see an amazing production of the story of Ronan and Sweeney. And it was great to see the children from both primary schools, Magheralin Village Primary School and St Patrick's Primary School, who've been working together for the last couple of months. And this production was really challenging for them over a short space of time. But with the Armagh Rhymers, they produced a wonderful morning's play.
Well, it was a wonderful opportunity that David Weir here gave us to bring Magheralin Primary School and St Patrick's Magheralin, two schools together, and we met in Magheralin Primary School over a period of time for storytelling and main thing for a bit of fun that we could take out of the Sweeney Astray, a very important piece of literature. So Sweeney was important, but what was going on as well was that the kids would have a sense of place, a sense of belonging. So, and the idea of the two schools, the concept that 𝐁𝐢𝐫𝐝 had of over us all is the self-same sky. And you have as good a right as I to praise the place where your face is known, for over us all is the self-same sky.
They worked so well together, the two schools worked so well together, and they really worked as children. You know, there wasn't a device in sight, but they were all up doing the old traditional dances, the clap dance, acting out the story. And I know feedback from the teachers, we're very pleased that, you know, the children were as engaged in the project as what they were. But I think it's so important to maintain what's good about the local. And, you know, we saw in the Sweeney story that story was able to bring those two groups of children together in many, many different ways, and we can all share.
There was a sense of place, I felt,
sense of place, yeah.
And pride of place,
yeah.
I should say as well. And then the birdman, he turns into a birdman. Of course, this one's here.
Yeah, metamorphosis, I suppose that would be. Yeah.
He turns into the birdman, and because well, Sweeney, was misbehaving, and he thought that Saint Ronan had taken his land without planning permission, without anything else, and was using all the stones from his stone circle to build his church. Yeah, the other thing, we incorporated a lot of the local songs, like For Rosa Was a Lovely Child, you know, we used that for some of the dances, and then you brought along the maypole. Again, a great symbol of community unity with the weave.
Well, they danced very impressively, I have to say, and it always looks great when the maypole is done sort of properly. Yeah. And, you know, I suppose maybe we put that in at the end because it's a bit of a spectacle at the end, but also too it's a very nice symbol of people coming together. But I would have no doubt that project and the other things that you did with them over the space of a few weeks has opened their minds to a whole range of, you know, it's endless really, because you had the history, you had the archaeology, you had the literature, you had the folk traditions, the music. You know, it's impossible for us to sit here and say, well, you know, that's going to have that effect, but that project will have opened the minds of a lot of those children.
Nobody really knows where Saint Ronan's church was. It could have been an old graveyard where a later church now stands.
Some people say it was in Feeney townland.
Other people say that there was a monastery on a hill where 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐫𝐿𝐵 House is, near the Orange Hall, and that there was a tunnel linking it to the graveyard.
We don't know who is right, but even if we can't find his church, Saint Ronan is still remembered in the area today. Like Saint Ronan's College in Lurgan is named after him.
And so is St. Patrick and Saint Ronan's church in our village. It just used to be called St. Patrick's Church, but Saint Ronan's name was added in 2011. And it wasn't just the name that got longer. The church got extended too, and there was even a new entrance built.
Before, this church used to look like an old barn, and the priests lived in an old house beside it. And behind the house was the old parish hall. Our school, St. Patrick's, used to meet inside the old hall before a new school was opened in 1957.
Our school doesn't look any different today. Lots of people have went to St. Patrick's School over the years, like Daniel Whiffen, who won gold and silver swimming medals at the 2024 Olympics. Beside the old parish hall, there used to be a petrol station, the only petrol station in Magheralin ever.
The petrol station and priest's house are not here anymore, and the parish hall was burnt down, but a new hall was built. We learned more about Magherlin's past and present when David and Jimmy from the 𝐶𝐤𝐫𝐿 Historical Society visited us.
They gave us maps of our townlands. Mine is Ballymacmain, which means home of Macmain.
And they brought loads of old photographs of Magheralin, and we learnt about what has changed and stayed the same from then and now. In old Magheralin, there used to be more fields, less houses and more quarries. The roads were less busy, and they used to have horses and carts instead of cars. Policemen and women used bicycles.
We found out lots of facts too. Like, did you know the main coach road to Dublin used to run through Magheralin? At the corner of Tiffany Park, there is even an old milestone recording that it is 66 miles to Dublin. And at the bottom of New Forge Road, there used to be an inn called the Black Lion, where people travelling in horse-drawn coaches would stop to rest and eat. The inn was knocked down, but the housing estate near it was named after it.
Did you also know that the old church in Magherlain graveyard was built over 600 years ago? People used it until the new church was built across the road in 1844. It is called the Church of the Holy and Undivided Trinity. The church walls are made with a volcanic stone called basalt. It is black, heavy and strong. Lots of old buildings are made with this stone because there is lots of it. Another rock called sandstone was used to make the windows of the church. It is soft and orange and easier to carve.
In front of the church is the War Memorial, which remembers people from the village who served and gave their lives during World Wars I
and 2.
The gravestones in the old graveyard record the names of some of the old families of Magherlin, like Byrne. The Byrne family have run a pub in Magherlin for over 150 years.
Another old Magherlin family name is Malcolmson. Robert Malcolmson ran the post office in Magherlin for a long time. Malcolmson Park is named after him.
Today the old post office is now a house. Another famous Malcolmson was James, who wrote a book of poetry about Magherlin.
Lying on the ground of the old graveyard, you can also see white rocks that have a special name, Paramudra. These are flint stones that have a big hole in the middle. Rock experts called geologists think that the hole formed around a sea coral because the land of Magherlin used to be underwater thousands of years ago. The Paramudra were taken from chalk lime quarries, which Magherlin was really famous for. The chalk used to be dug up by hand and was taken by horse and cart to a place called the Lime Putty Mill near the New Forge Bridge. Here, the chalk was crushed into powder by big machines that were powered by a water wheel with water from the Lagan River. The powder was then used to make all sorts of things like fertilizer and lime putty to seal windows.
The mill closed a long time ago, but I learned that the big wheel is now next to South Lakes Leisure Centre. Maybe it should be brought back to Magherlin. Our class met Eamon and Katrina, who told us more things about how Magherlin has changed over the years.
Eamon is 93 and has lived in Magherlin since 1957, after he married his wife, who lived in a place called Hole in the Wall.
Eamon said that they used to do all their grocery shopping in Noel Robinson's shop, which was just down the road from their school. It is now a house. He loves Gaelic football and was one of the founders of St Michael's Gaelic Football Club. He also really likes the church, and when he came in, he was wearing a medal that was awarded by the Pope for all the work he has done in St Patrick and Ronan's church. He told us that when World War II was happening, he could remember seeing the fires from Belfast after it was bombed by the Nazis during the Blitz. And also during World War II, American soldiers stayed at a house called 𝐶𝐿 in Magherlin. We found out from him that lots of shops have come and went in Magherlin. Eamon's favourite shop was Mrs. Irwin's bakery because he has a sweet tooth and really liked the buns.
The shop was in a row of white houses called Flinty Row, which was opposite St Patrick and Saint Ronan's church. There were other shops in Flinty Row like Donnelly's newsagent and Heaney's chip shop. It was called Flinty Row because the houses were made of flint stone taken from a quarry that used to be behind them. There was also an alleyway near Flinty Row called Squeeze-Gut or Crush-Gut. It was so tight you had to pull your tummy in and walk sideways to get through it. Flinty Row was demolished in the 1970s after better housing was built in the village.
But lots of people in the village call the place Flinty Hill today. On Flinty Hill, you can see a sign for Magherlin, flowers on a wooden log with sculptures that tell the history of the village. They were put here by the Magheralin Community Association, who do lots of really good things to make the village a nice place to live in. Katrina works for them and told us about some of the work they do to bring people together.
She also told us about another hill called Skidder Hill, which used to come down opposite Burns pub. The hill got the name because of the dung the cattle used to leave behind when they walked down the hill into the village. The climb up the hill used to be really hard and steep, but it is easier today after the new Ballymagan road was built.
At our school, Jean and Harry visited us to tell us about old Magherlin. They are also part of Magheralin Community Association. We found out that Jean's father, Edmund, ran a shop called Greg's. It used to be where Mac's Chippy was. It sold lots of different things, but not as many as 𝐶𝐚𝐤𝐫𝐶𝐞𝐫𝐿 does today.
Edmund was also an artist who painted lots of places around Magheralin.
Jean also told us that the Red Door Club building near the church used to be a schoolhouse for Magheralin Village Primary School before our school was built. The artist Sir John Lavery went to this school. He is one of Ireland's greatest ever painters. You can see this a lot of his work in the Ulster Museum.
If you look up, you can also see a blue sign on the schoolhouse that remembers John McCune. He was born in the village, but became a famous explorer and plant expert in Canada. There is even a village named after him there. Harry also told us about a row of houses called Duck Street that used to stand just past the church. It was called Duck Street because the people who lived there were weavers who worked at home making linen cloths.
They used duck grease to keep their looms working. The weavers were then nicknamed ducks. There is even a famous song called The Ducks of Magheralin.
Just down the road from Duck Street were another row of houses called Stirabout Row. It was called this because the weavers who lived here stirred about flour, water and corn to make a sloppy mix that they put on the strings of their looms. This stopped the strings from snapping.
Many people in the village used to make linen. There was even a weaving factory outside New Forge House where the Mathers family live. Today, New Forge House is a really fancy hotel.
In the village, there was another factory run by the 𝐸aran family. It turned cotton and linen into handkerchiefs. The factory was knocked down years ago for apartments, but another member of the 𝐸aran family set up a deck factory with lots of people work in today.
A lot of people also work in the Bovril factory. Cheese has been made here for over 70 years. Today's mozzarella cheese for Domino's Pizza is made here.
So we have learned a lot about Magheralin.
It is a great village and I am grateful to live here.
So we've just come to the end of our project with St Patrick's Primary School and Magheralin Village Primary School, and it's been really fantastic experience for us all. A big part of this project has been about ourselves, the Craven Historical Society, learning more about Magheralin because it's a place we haven't really done a lot of work in recently, and also by forming new connections. So we've formed really great connections with the Magheralin Community Association, with St Patrick's and Magheralin Village Primary Schools. And together we sort of learned an awful lot about the history of this place, which on a map looks very small. But then when you actually look back into the past, it's made a real impact on the history of Ireland. You could argue the cradle of Christianity is actually based here in Magheralin. So it's been a really great experience. We've worked with two fantastic classes. I have to say a big thank you to the pupils. And I should note that the script, or the narrative script that we've used in the film that you've just watched is all based on the pupils' writings and what they've remembered. So it's a real credit to them and to their teachers, and we thank the schools for inviting us in. It's been particularly nice in this project to bring a lot of attention to the story of Buile Shuibhne, or the madness of Sweeney. Often when we think about mythology and legends, we have a tendency to go to Greece or to go to Rome or to go to the Viking myths. But the myths here in Ireland are just as good, featuring just as fantastic stories and characters and wee bit of madness. So to be able to let a new generation know about that story, brought to life by the Armagh Rhymers in only the way that they can do it, with music and performance. It's been a real delight of this project. A project which has only been made possible thanks to the support of the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And we really do appreciate the funding that they've given for this project, which allows us to carry out our aims, which are to promote the history and heritage of the 𝐒𝐚𝐲 and the wider area, as well as to bring people together and enthuse them about history. The great thing in this project is we've enthused all sorts of generations, from young to old. So thank you very much to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for all that support. This is the third project which is supported through the Society, which is now coming to an end. So we'll see what happens in the future, but hopefully we'll be out and about again with another project.